Hey guys, Naterz here, and I have talked about video game characters on this channel twice, so this will be the third video that I'm making specifically on video game characters, which is more than any other type of video on my channel. Now, there are two reasons for that. Firstly, I have put a lot of research into all the video game series that Warner has owned over the past couple of weeks, and secondly, I'm not going to be going as in-depth in this video on all the characters. The goal of this video is to introduce new characters and their series to people. So I'm going to be ranking over 50 video game characters that could possibly make it into MultiVersus. All of these characters are related to Warner in some way, and a lot of these are actually super underrated hidden gems. This may be my favorite video to put research into, purely due to the crazy paths I went down to find these games. The reason I say crazy is because Warner owns a decent amount of video game companies. There's a chance I actually missed some. I almost missed one of them right before writing the script for this video. So before I get into the characters, I want to quickly go over the companies that they own. If you want to skip this part, a timestamp will be shown on the screen on where to skip to. So, Warner currently owns 4 companies that are actively making games. Those companies being Warner Bros. Games, TT Games, Monolith Productions, and NetherRealm Studios. Other than these companies, there are a few others that Warner owns that no longer are producing games. Midway is the biggest of these, which made a lot of arcade games back in the day. Midway actually turned into Warner Bros. Games, which is why it is no longer developing anything. Warner also owns the games made by the original Atari company, which actually then was turned into Midway. Since then, the Atari name has been owned by many different companies. Warner also owns a company called Time Warner Interactive. Warner also owned Adult Swim Games for a very long time. Sadly, they shut it down earlier this year. So, all of the games in this video will be from one of those companies. In this video, I will be ranking each character on moveset potential. I will be releasing the tier list on Tier Maker when this video comes out. So, when you are done watching the video, you can rank the characters based on what you see here. I will be showing gameplay from the games so you can get a feel for each character. But, let's first establish tiers. Instead of S tier, I'm going to call the highest tier Moveset Madness. B tier I'm going to call I Can See the Potential, and C tier will be The Devs Could Figure It Out. Below that, I'll just put eh. I'll add a tier below called Just Has a Gun, and this tier is basically because some characters in this video just have a gun and no further moveset potential, and then the final tier will be No Moveset Potential. So, I will be ranking this list alphabetically, starting with Afro Thunder from Ready to Rumble Boxing, made by Midway. At first, I thought that I would put him in The Devs Could Figure It Out, as I thought that a character from a boxing game would just have punches. I think you could take some creative liberties with Afro, though. Firstly, yes, he could have punches, even a variety of them from his game, but he also could have some dance moves that he could do to deal damage to his opponents as well. He dances a lot in the boxing rounds, so I think it would make a lot of sense, actually. You also could give him his rumble meter that he has in his game. Overall, I can see the potential for Afro, and I think that he would be a fun character for this game. Next, we have Agent 47 from the Hitman series. This is the first character of the video who is not owned by Warner. The characters in this video are all related to Warner in some way. Warner Bros. Games has published 3 of the Hitman video games, so Agent 47 can definitely be connected to Warner. I think that 47 can easily be placed in Moveset Madness. 47 has so many objects that he can use for moveset that it is pretty absurd. The devs could easily come up with a moveset for him. Elma Wade is a fairly popular character from the Fear series, which was developed by Monolith and published by Warner Bros. Games. In reality, she just doesn't have a ton to work with. She is not the main character of Fear and only appears in little jump scares, cameos, and a few cutscenes here and there. I think the devs could possibly figure it out, but I also feel like could fit her a lot better. I think that if a Fear character were to get in, the Pointman would be the best fit, but I'll get into that later on. Primal Rage is a game developed by the original Atari and published by Time Warner Interactive. It is a fighting game with dinosaurs and some other characters as well. One of which is Blizzard, a giant gorilla. Blizzard has ice powers which could definitely be used in MultiVersus. I am going to be putting Blizzard in Moveset Madness. Due to Primal Rage being a fighting game, I think that Blizzard could be implemented into MultiVersus very easily. I will probably be putting most, if not all, fighting game characters in Moveset Madness due to them being so easily translated into a platform fighter. I'll put Blizzard under Agent 47, due to 47 having so many objects to fight with. War Final Assault is a game by Midway and the original Atari. There are 4 main characters in the game, but I chose Blondie as we can always use more woman reps for the game. In the game, you can pick up a ton of different types of guns to kill your opponents with. So I'm going to throw Blondie in the devs could figure it out tier. She has more than just one gun, and she has so many guns the devs really could figure out a moveset for her. Team Buddies is a really unique looking game with vibrant colors. Don't let this fool you though, as it is an action-packed game. I am going to throw Buddy in I Can See the Potential. Buddy has so many weapons that he could utilize, most of which are guns, but there are also swords in the game as well. Buddy also could drive a tank. It would be neat if the crate stacking played a role in his moveset as well, as that is how you create weapons in the game. Overall, I think that you could create a moveset pretty easily for the Buddy, and he could be a really fun character to get into MultiVersus. Blood is a game made by Monolith Productions. It also has a second game that has been made, and some fan-made games as well. The main character, Caleb, could actually work pretty easily in MultiVersus. He has tons of different unique weapons that could be used in his moveset. Weapons such as a pitchfork, TNT which can be lit with a lighter, many types of guns, and so much more. Due to his insane amount of potential, I'm gonna throw him at the top of Moveset Madness. I think it could be insanely easy to make a moveset for Caleb, and he could actually be a pretty unique character for the game. Next is Captain Claw from the video game called Claw. Claw is a video game made by Monolith and is a side-scrolling platformer. Captain Claw has a sword and a gun that he could use to defeat enemies. He also has a magic power called Magic Claw, as well as dynamite. All of those could be worked into his moveset if he were to make it into MultiVersus. I think that I'm going to throw him in I Can See the Potential tier. There are items and power-ups in the game that I think that he could use as well. There are also animated cutscenes, all of which total to more than 17 minutes long. I think that you can pull moves from those scenes as well. Overall, I do think that the devs could figure out how to make Captain Claw work, but I can really see the potential for him, and I think that he deserves to be in that tier. Total Carnage is a game made by Midway and is a multi-directional shooting game. The main character, Captain Carnage, picks up many different types of guns and power-ups that he can use to defeat enemies. So Captain Carnage is basically just Blondie with a little more moveset potential due to power-ups. So because of this, I am going to be placing Captain Carnage in the devs could figure it out, right above Blondie. Kate Archer is from a video game called The Operative No One Lives Forever, which was made by Monolith Productions. It kind of reminds me of a first-person version of Hitman. Kate is a spy who is sent on missions. Unlike Agent 47 from Hitman, however, she only uses firearms in her games. Due to this, I'm going to throw her in the I Can See the Potential tier. The reason I don't put her in the same tier as the other firearms characters is because I think that the devs would be able to do more with her due to the cutscenes and whatnot. Next is Chase McCain from Lego City Undercover, a game made by TT Games. I am going to throw Chase in the I Can See the Potential tier. I think that you would have to implement Chase's disguises into his moveset in order for it to be unique. It would be kind of weird if he randomly switches outfits with each move that he deals though. The devs would definitely have to brainstorm a bit for him, but I do think that he could be really neat. Back 4 Blood is a game published by Warner Brothers Games and is an apocalyptic shooter game. In the game, you can choose from a group of heroes called Cleaners. I think that each Cleaner could have a variant in MultiVersus if they were to get in. I am going to throw them in the I Can See the Potential tier, as they do have a lot of weapons to work with, but not as much as the characters in the tiers above them. In my last video, I talked about how the Telltale Walking Dead can be tied with Warner. Warner is said to have helped Telltale in some way, according to Wikipedia, and has published some of the games as well. So I think that it could actually be possible to see Clementine get into the game. I'm going to be putting Clem in Moveset Madness, as I think that she has so much to work with. She has an insane amount of potential, and I hope to see her one day in the game's future. Guardians of the Hood is a fighting game released and made by Atari. It is a fighting game which instantly boosts its main character, Connor, up to Moveset Madness, because a fighting game character would work in a fighting game. Connor mostly has kicks and punches, but he also can pick up items and use them as well, which I think could be implemented into the game. He also has a fire power move as well. I do think that he is at the very bottom of the Moveset Madness tier, but I definitely think that he does deserve to be there. Dr. Mudo is a platforming game made by Midway. In it, the main character, Mudo, can literally morph into animals. Gorillas, spiders, fish, and so much more. He also has rocket boots and other weapons as well. Due to this, Mudo is going straight to the top of Moveset Madness. The devs could do so much for him to work. But sadly, Dr. Mudo is a pretty underrated game and will probably never get any representation in MultiVersus. Duck Game was a game that was published by Adult Swim Games before it shut down. Since it shut down, the rights have been acquired by the creator of the game, which is all in all a good thing. But I don't know how easy it would be to put the duck in MultiVersus. But it would definitely be cool. I'm going to be putting the duck in Moveset Madness. Duck Game itself is similar to a platform fighter, and I think that duck could be implemented very well into the game. Next is Grumly from the video game Grunts. Grunts was made by Monolith Productions and is a puzzle PC game. Grumly is going to go straight to Moveset Madness, right under Agent 47. There is a chance that he should even go to the top of Moveset Madness. In the game, you can handle so many items with the Grunts characters, a moveset could very, very easily be made, and I'd absolutely love to see them added. Haven Call of the King is a game made by TT Games back when they were called Traveler's Tales. I'm going to throw Haven in the I Can See the Potential tier. He has energy shields, guns, a magic yo-yo, and so much more that all could be used for a moveset. I think that the devs could make him work and be a pretty fun character. Hero is from a video game called Robotron X made by Midway. The only thing Hero can do is shoot, so Hero is going to be the first character to go in the has a gun tier. JJ is a character from the arcade game Blueprint. Blueprint was published by Midway and looks like a really fun game. I'm going to put JJ in the devs could figure it out tier. I think that he could use bombs to damage opponents, he could have enemies chase him which could also damage opponents, and even use the large shooting mech that he obtains at the end of the game. I think that JJ is a neat character, and I actually would love to see him get added. Next we have John Jack from Contract Jack. Contract Jack takes place in the No One Lives Forever universe that is also made by Monolith. John basically has the same moveset potential as Kate Archer, so I'm going to put him right next to her in the I Can See the Potential tier. Juliet Starling is one of the most requested video game characters for MultiVersus. Starling comes from a video game called Lollipop Chainsaw, which was published by Warner Brothers Games. I am going to throw Juliet in the I Can See the Potential tier. Juliet's primary weapon is a chainsaw, which is pretty neat. However, you can only do so much with a chainsaw. That said, there is still a lot that Lollipop Chainsaw manages to allow Juliet to do. So I think that she has a lot of potential, and I am going to put her in that tier. Pitball is a game by Time Warner Interactive. It is a game that takes place in the future where the popular sport is a game called Pitball. Any of the characters could work, but I chose Julius as I think that he is pretty interesting. I will throw Julius in the devs could figure it out tier. I think that there is a lot going for him. He can shoot the ball out of his hand, use basic attacks, special moves, and even dash forward. It's a shame because this is a game that is basically forgotten about, and I think that Julius could be a lot of fun to see make it in. Wacko is a game made by Midway and features a character named Captain Cruiser. In the game, you fly around in a ship and shoot enemies. So I'm going to throw Cruiser in the has a gun tier. The next character is my most wanted video game character for MultiVersus. That character being the Knight from Joust. The Knight has so much more moveset potential than people realize, especially due to the second Joust video game. In that game, you can turn your ostrich into a Pegasus, which is more powerful, but slow and heavy. Taking all of this into account, I'm going to be putting him at the very top of the I can see the potential tier. Kyle Crane is from a video game called Dying Light, which was published by Warner. Dying Light is an apocalyptic game, and Kyle has a ton of weapons that he can use in it, so I'm going to put him in the moveset madness tier, as I think that he could be very easy to make a moveset for. Leander is the first video game made by TT Games, and is going to be the second addition to the tier. In the game, you basically just have a sword to fight with. You can get better swords which don't really look different visually, but do attack a bit faster. You can also get better armor as you progress in the game. Due to all this, I'm not sure he has enough to work with to go to the tier above, so I'll throw him in the tier. Lord Fuse is from a game called Cartoon Network Fusion Fall. He actually doesn't have much moveset potential at all, which kind of surprised me, so I am going to throw him in the category. It could be neat if he could make minions out of his opponents or something, but I think a lot of thought would have to go into how to make him work. Lord Deos is from a game called Mace: The Dark Age, which was made by Atari. Mace is a fighting game, which sends Lord Deos to the moveset madness tier. The reason I chose Deos is purely because he was the face of the game. If it were up to me, I'd choose Warmech, who is a secret unlockable character to add into MultiVersus. Warmech is a mech controlled by a dude named Gar. Lord Deos himself does have a decent amount of moveset potential as well though. Deos has a big sword and could be an interesting heavyweight for MultiVersus. Next is Lord Vortek, another one of my most wanted characters for the game. Vortek is from LEGO Dimensions, a game made by TT Games. I'm going to put Lord Vortek in the I can see the potential tier, right under the Knight. I think that Vortek could use portals to fight, spawning things out of them, as well as using his staff to damage opponents. Max Force is from a game called Narc, and has a decent amount of potential. He is able to use an automatic gun as well as a rocket launcher. He also can arrest people. I think it would be really funny if he could put handcuffs on his opponents, causing them to not be able to use any moves involving their hands for a couple of seconds. Due to all this, I am going to put Max in the devs could figure it out tier. Maxwell is from the game Scribblenauts, and is overall the second most wanted video game series for MultiVersus. Maxwell immediately goes to the top of the moveset madness tier. Maxwell basically has infinite potential and could have an insane moveset. He's able to spawn pretty much anything in with his magic notebook. That is why he is placed where he is. Monobi from Generations Lost is actually such a neat character. Generations Lost is a game published by Time Warner Interactive. Monobi basically has basic punches and kicks, but is also able to roll and shoot forward with some energy. He also is able to have this really neat grapple energy thing. I think that the devs could take some creative liberties with the energy grapple and work it into his moveset a lot. He could be a grappler character who could launch opponents around with the grapple. Due to this, I'm going to put him at the top of the devs could figure it out category. Next is Nick Scrier from PsyOps The Mindgate Conspiracy, which was made by Midway. Nick is able to use guns in his game and has some pretty neat powers like telekinesis. I think that having a character with telekinesis would be really neat to have in MultiVersus. I am going to put Nick in the I can see the potential tier, as I think that he has a lot to work with. Paperboy is my second most wanted video game character for this game. Most people would probably wonder how he would work, which is pretty fair. A character riding a bike has never been in a fighting game before to my knowledge, and it is something that Smash wanted to do with Mach Rider. But Paperboy could actually work in MultiVersus. Firstly, he would obviously throw paper, which can be from the first Paperboy video game, but there also is a second one for the N64. He has power-ups from those games, like a rocket boost and jump boost. He also could possibly jump a ramp as well. Due to all of this, I'm going to put him in between Knight and Vortek in the I can see the potential tier. Peter Packrat is an arcade game made by Atari. Peter is the main character of the game, and he is able to throw objects at his enemies. He can then ride the flying enemies that he hits with the objects. I'd imagine that he could ride an owl or a bat for a recovery. The goal of the game is to collect items, so maybe he could use the items he collects in his moveset somehow. Overall, I think that the devs could have to take some creative liberties with Peter, so I'll put him in the devs could figure it out tier. Next is the Pointman from Fear. I think that Pointman would be way easier to implement into the game rather than Elma. Elma has been seen protecting the Pointman though, so maybe she could actually appear in his moveset and protect him. He would also have guns that he could use in his moveset, but he also could have his powers to make his opponents be slow for a couple of seconds, showing that he could turn the game into slow motion in the Fear video game. Overall, I think that Pointman goes in the I can see the potential tier. Pugsley is one of TT Games' earliest games. In it, you can play as Pugsley, some weird alien creature thing. You can pick up objects that you can use to solve the level. You also can throw the objects at enemies. There is also guns, so that could be worked into his moveset somehow as well. Overall, I think that Pugsley belongs in the devs could figure it out tier. If a Rampage character were to get in, I'd bet that we would be seeing Ralph. Warner already has access to a giant monkey and a giant lizard, but not a giant wolf, other than Ralph. So I think that Ralph would be the perfect Rampage character to add. Rampage itself has some fighting game mechanics, with kicks and punches already implemented into the game. Ralph also has a super howl that he could use in MultiVersus as well. He also would be able to throw vehicles. I'll put Ralph in the I can see the potential tier, as I do think that he has a decent amount of potential. Rascal Clockwise is from the video game Rascal, made by TT Games. Rascal is a platformer, and looks pretty fun visually. Rascal has a bubble gun, and that's about it, so he is going to go in the has a gun tier. Trog is an arcade game made by Midway where you play as a dinosaur trying to collect eggs and dodge cavemen, named Trogs. The dinosaur's name is Rex, and Rex can punch, breathe fire, and even transform into a T-Rex. You also can pick up a flower which acts as a speed boost. I think that this is all a decent amount to work with, so I'm going to throw Rex in the devs could figure it out tier. The Adventures of Robby Roto is an arcade game made by Midway. It looks pretty similar to Dig Dug in my opinion. Sadly, Robby is the first character to go in the no moveset potential tier. This guy just has nothing to work with other than a brief invincibility power-up, so I think that he really has nothing to work with here. Robot Unicorn Attack is a game that was published by Adult Swim Games. There actually have been a total of 3 games made, and if I were ranking the first game, I would put the Robot Unicorn in the tier, because all it does is dash forward. The sequels, however, gave the Unicorn power-ups. So I think that I'll put the Unicorn in the devs could figure it out tier. Next, we have Rock Hardy from the game Zybots, made by Atari. In the game, Rock has a gun, which makes me want to put him in the it has a gun tier. He does, however, have power-ups as well, which bumps him up to the tier. He is able to get increased speed, increased firing power, better defense, and more. I'm not sure that he would be the ideal character to add into MultiVersus, but he is pretty neat. Shogo Mobile Armor Division is a game made by Monolith Productions. Its main character, whose name I won't even attempt to pronounce, is able to handle weapons and operate mech vehicles. I think that he actually has a pretty good amount of potential due to this, so I will put him in the I can see the potential tier. Now we can finally get to the most requested video game character for MultiVersus, that being Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Scorpion needs no introduction. He is from a fighting game, which sends him to the Moveset Madness tier. He has so many moves from across all the Mortal Kombat games that he could use. He has his kunai that he could use, which I'd imagine would be his main weapon. He could very easily be implemented into the game, and by all means should be. BioFreaks is once again a fighting game made by Midway. The face of the game is a character named Zipperhead, but the most popular character is a character named Sapo. He also happens to be my favorite from the game, so I chose him for the list. Due to it being a fighting game, it automatically goes to Moveset Madness. Sapo is able to shoot out of his cannon arm, punch, kick, bite, create a shockwave, and even fly with a jetpack. There is actually so much more that Sapo has to work with when looking at his moveset list on the BioFreaks manual guide. He also has a harpoon and can even teleport. This guy is not someone you want to mess with. Sadly, there just isn't a ton of video footage of this game, but the devs could totally get their hands on it and create a really fun moveset for Sapo. Next, we have the Tapper from the Tapper video game, made by Midway. Basically, all the Tapper can do is throw root beer, so I'll throw him in the tier. Actually, maybe, you know what, I'll throw him in has a gun tier, because all he basically is doing is throwing a projectile, which basically is the same thing as a gun. The kid from Bastion could make for an interesting character for MultiVersus. Bastion is an RPG game published by Warner. The kid is able to use an assortment of weapons, some of which being a hammer and a bow and arrow. I think that the kid actually has a lot to work with, and I can see the potential for him. Torque from The Suffering has a lot of moveset potential. The Suffering was published by Midway and is a third-person shooter game. Torque has many different weapons that he is able to use to fight, so I think I'm going to throw him in the Moveset Madness tier. Freaky Flyers is another game made by Midway, and there are many characters that you could pick to add. For this list, I chose Tracy Torpedoes, but Pilot X could also be a great inclusion as well. Overall, though, Freaky Flyers is a racing game, and it would be hard to implement it into MultiVersus, so I'm going to be throwing it in the tier. Our second to last character is Umot from Carnival, a game published by Midway and made by Midway. Umlaut is basically just this floating jester head that can bite. He has no moveset potential, but is a neat character. Now, it would be fun if you paired him with the main villain of the game, Ludwig Token Taker. That would boost him up to the devs could figure it out tier. When I upload this list to Tier Maker, I will add Ludwig to Umlaut, making them a duo character, as I think that they would have a lot more potential if they showed up together, and I probably should have made them a duo character to begin with. The final character for this video is Valkyrie from Gauntlet Legends. Gauntlet Legends was made by Atari and published by Midway. It is an RPG game, and I think that Valkyrie comfortably can be put into the Moveset Madness category. She has kicks, she has sword slashes, and she has magic that she can shoot as well, and even has an eagle that could be worked into a possible recovery. I think that she is a super neat character and should totally be added into this game at some point. And with that, I think that we will end this super long video here. Video game characters have so much potential, and people just don't realize it. I will put the tier list link in the description if you want to go and rank the characters based off of what you saw in this video. If you do make a tier list, feel free to @ me on my Twitter at elf4multiversus. I would love to see what you create. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. It encourages me to release new content. I upload every other Tuesday, so if you liked this upload, look forward to my next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.